able to contact you guys to see if there would be a good fit for the projects that you guys working on?
Okay, yeah. They could reach us at casting@SteelTownRecordsInc.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the main where you can send in their portfolios and stuff like that for the actual film project.
Okay.
Yeah,
So sound like some interesting stuff, man. Y'all got a lot of stuff going on. I like your team. Y'all built up and everything. Is there anything anybody want to share on their part? Anything about the film? Anything about the production side of it?
I would like to say something. Also, we're selling merchandise for SteelTown. We have the T-shirts, the polo shirts, and the hats. So we're working with marketing to get all the social media platforms on board so people can see the content and purchase some of the merchandise.
And I like the polos. The polos pretty nice. Now I want a black and white one myself.
okay, yeah. Is that where you could post a picture of that on your thing so people could like briefly see that or there, if possible?
Yeah, but we talked about it, and you said that you didn't want to do it until you guys actually got everything together.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Are you talking about the link? But I was just speaking on just the visual, just to see it, because it's a great polo shirt. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
merchandise it's going to help us to get funding, for the movie, for the project. So we're really trying to push
mm-hmm.
the merch.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to. I don't want to step outside of my bounds and do something that you guys probably weren't ready for. But yeah, I can post it on my social media page and try to promote it as much as I can. Like me and Kenneth talked about. You know, that's what I'm trying to do on my end. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I can post it out there. I got it. I like the shirts myself.
Yeah.
I ain't seen the hats though, cuz you tell me you had hats, man.
Man, it has sharp, man. It's just it's tight fitting. It's fitting, and it has a logo on front of the record, SteelTown. We created a logo too, SteelTown from Mr. Keith. Now, this is the funny part, right? Me and Merv was we was getting some of the hats to send off to Dion because she's conducting a photo shoot for our content.
Mhm.
Uh, and There's all these rows of hats look like it was so compressed, like pretty like looking like little ice cream cones. I'm like, Merv, man, these hats. Why are we seeing these hats to Dion when they fit like little baby midgets? They can't fit. So Merv was like, he was looking at me like, he was like, give me the hat, idiot. So I gave him the hat, and he put it and he put it on his head. And when he put it on his head, no longer did it look like it was impossible. I'm like, well, I'd be damn, it fits you perfectly. And you got a nice size big head. I have a big head, and so that's when I realized. I was like, because it's stretchable, idiot, from the back. You created it. So I was like, okay, wow, yeah, okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So yeah, we got the hats. They're nice fitted. They come in black and white and black. And they could also come in that lambskin leather also. But as time goes by, that's what we'll, push out and stuff like that. Yeah.
So Dion, the question where you talk about the merch, is it going to be like a website, or do you guys have one out already, or are you going to have one coming out where people can go and purchase these
Right. So,
items?
right. So at this stage, right now, we're working on different social media platforms. I believe it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. Is that right, Ken?
Yeah.
So we're working on getting the link together. What we're doing also is we're setting up. We have different scheduled photo shoots that we're going to be doing this week, and we're giving it like within 2 weeks we'll have the content ready, and then we'll send it over to the marketing department to where they'll have everything ready, and then we'll have a link to where they can purchase it.
Okay.
Yeah, we in the
So
beginning of that, getting the content.
okay, that sounds good. Now, Kel, just repeat this one more time, man, for the people that you're looking for as far as independent artists. You say you want people that can write and produce music that was like in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, you say?
Yeah, what we'll do is give him a scene in the film as well. So, like, there's a scene where Mr. Gordon Keefe goes to Catherine's house after the Jacksons left for Motown, right? And it's a very powerful, emotional, compelling scene. So from that, the way it will be described to the artist or viewed to the artist and through the treatment of synopsis, right? Or that is what and how they could write from it, from each scene, everything that happens in the scene, like how the Jacksons, let's say, like from how SteelTown was built by the 5 men and stuff like that. You can have a scene of a song can be created from that aspect, or just anything that happens in the movie. The artist could write from that if it was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, something like that. Because the movie will go back
Okay.
into like the late 40s and stuff like that, and stuff like things of that nature.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
before we leave, Lindy, what you got to add to this, man?
Well, I'm here to do what I can in terms of research. Can I tell you? And I've gone back and tried to do what I could in terms of different books, like uh, Catherine Jackson's book, book on the Jacksons, on Michael Jackson, a biography on Michael Jackson. Sources like that. I've even gone to this book that this guy wrote about the history of Gary, Indiana, which is pretty good. So I want to kind of get an
Mm-hmm.
idea of how things were back in the day. One of the things that can I tell you, I've had countless conversations about how I'm a stickler for not just accuracy, but I'm also a stickler for things that are authentic. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be watching a film and hearing terminology that's used today and it's supposed to be a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
That irritates me. And then the other thing is that no, it does. It's like back in those days they weren't saying stuff like it's all good. If it's supposed to be 1965, why am I hearing that term? Come on, man.
Uh-huh.
Or you see certain hairstyles that you see today that they weren't rocking back then. One of the things that I provided or I shared with Ken was you can hear the brothers talking among themselves, and they were just chopping it up. This is back in 1970. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm from California, and even though I'm not from that community, you can I it takes you back and to that time period, and also, I mean, if you from Gary, if you from Chicago, you from Los Angeles, you from Harlem, you from Oakland, wherever, and if you remember those days, you can relate to that. I mean, you hear them, sitting there chopping it up, and all it is just a bunch of brothers, just off the cuff, just shooting the breeze type of thing, and the way they sounded back then is a lot different than how these youngsters sound now. So what I'm saying is, if you got somebody or got folks playing the Jackson Five, they need to study how they sounded in interviews, how they sounded, whether it be radio interviews, TV interviews, similar to how what's his name, Jamie Foxx did when he was preparing for his role for Ray Charles in the movie Ray. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so all of those kind of things are important. And we won't even get into the clothing. Finally, I'll say this, and I've said this before. One of my favorite films is The Five Heartbeats that Robert Townsend did, and it's real authentic. I mean, I shared that movie with an uncle of mine. He's about 80, almost 81 now, and he was in his 20s back in the 60s. Well, and I have another uncle who was a teenager back then. That was, that's the music of his era. So, um, Robert Townsend, he got makeup artists, uh, costume folk, hairstylists, all that kind of stuff, and they looked at old magazines from Ebony and other publications from back in the day to make it authentic. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
anybody's seen the movie, you see the movie was done from supposed to cover from 1965 to 1990. So we're talking a 25-year period, and you felt like you were back in time, right? You know,
Yeah.
so that's how
I mean,
this film, yeah,
now
Yeah.
don't
So.
get me wrong. Now I like the 5 heartbeats,
Mhm.
uh-huh,
but I would have to say that my favorite was the Temptations. My bad.
Yeah, the Temptations. Yeah, and even with that movie, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
the Temptations movie, man. I'm sorry, man. That was my favorite one. But
you see, and you see that's when you speak of the Temptations, right? That's the movie was great. You loved it, right? But it's something that you didn't know. Johnny Mae Matthews went after them after the movie was done, and she sued them because they were painting a picture of her, according to her, not how she was. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing with this story here is very crucial and critical to make sure that we tell the story exactly like how it occurred. So that would never happen to us. And the most fascinating thing is we have the rights and the power to go forward with this thing. That's another reason why we really want to do this, because everybody else in the outsiders can't do this, because this is not the biography. Mr. Keith never shared his biography, well, from what we know, to them to that degree. Like we know, like the levels we talk about from A to Z.
So I want to piggyback real quick on something that Lennon said. So the to make things original and authentic. So since the Jackson 5 was in Gary, do you guys plan on doing any scenes in Gary? Is it going to be based off of things in Gary, or are you doing it somewhere else?
It depends, because let's say, like for instance, right? We know we can't use the house there because we already know how those things are. Again, when you look at we want to do all these great things for Gary, but like I was saying, I think Gary has to allow that to happen. And looking back politically, the figureheads or whatever back then, they didn't allow it. Mr. Gordon Keep does, even to this day, don't even have a name of a street named after him. Like I said, his property was destroyed. Only on that block where my cousins reside at that block, and they gave their dad a street on the property where Mr. Keith's house was at. That's the only thing that they destroyed. So to get, that would be lovely to doing it there, right? But it would have to be right. It would have to be allowed, and from the right ways, and things of that nature. Minus the permits, we know how those things go. But yeah, we would want to, it would have to be allowed. And then another thing too, you don't always have to be in a specific place. And that's the beauty of filmmaking. You have the abilities to, create things anywhere that looks like there. But sometimes, right, there's nothing wrong with actually having it done at the place where it all originated at. And that's what I really wanted for SteelTown Records. But I think, it was totally destroyed so that we couldn't take it, buy it. Like we bought the other property. We own the other property where Johnny was murdered at in Gary also. So our plan is to slowly turn that into a museum. You know what I'm saying? For the public. But so we were trying to, the same time we did that, we were trying to get SteelTown, but that's where that miraculously thing occurred. And we investigated, and we even have the, like the paperwork, to show that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess this would be my last question for you too, Ken. So
I sure hate it as the last, because as more questions you ask me, I'm willing to give you more.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
Miss Austin says she got something to do, man. She driving to destination. She can't be still. That's what she told me.
Well, that's fine. I mean, she could do that. I mean.
Hey, listen, we can always come back, as we move further
Oh
along,
yeah.
and we'd be happy to come back on. I did want to say this too as well, before I forget. While we're in the process of building our social media platforms with the marketing department, if anybody has any inquiries about any merchandise, they can hit Mr. Kenneth Joseph up via email until we finish getting that part ready. And I guess, Ken, you can give them an email, like once he posts a photo of it and they want to buy something, until we get the platforms ready.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Absolutely. And they could hit me up at, for that at KennethJoseph Kenneth Joseph at gmail.com. Kenneth Joseph at gmail.com. Okay, so you were saying, thank you for that, Didi. So you were saying the question. Okay, what question you want to ask me?
So since we're talking about Mr. Keith and him being a founder of the Jackson 5, and he managed the Jackson 5, I was reading somewhere that in 2010, that that song, Big Boy, You Changed. It was displayed in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, man. How did you feel about that? I'm like what kind of feeling, a joy did you have to see somebody that you knew that actually, created this and made this group who they was, man? How was your feelings about that?
Wow, I think that is very amazing, and yeah, that was in 2000. That was a good feeling. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Keith did mention that to me. It was a great feeling when he mentioned that to me, and just to know that this came from him. But sad to say that You've Changed also was taken from Mr. Gordon Keith by Motown without Mr. Keith's permission, without signing a mechanical agreement, and he was placed on the actual album for the Jackson 5, coming to Motown as well. But other than that, it was a great feeling. It's just overwhelming to be a part of Mr. Keith, and that was it was overwhelming, but it's something that I had to learn because I was so strung up into the media at the time. That's how I was looking at the media from that perspective, and I thought that certain things had to be a certain kind of way. But when I met Mr. Gordon Keith, I learned that it wasn't like that. But I also learned that Mr. Keith was an actual icon that was blackballed. But yes, when he told me that was a great feeling. It goes back into the same thing that I compare that to when there's a guy, Linda, you remember this guy, Randy Tabalos? I can never say his name right. He wrote this great book. What's the name? What's the guy's name again, Linda? Randy.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm tell you in a minute. It's a big, thick biography that he first wrote in 1991 on Michael. It's called Michael Jackson, the Magic, the Madness, the Whole Story. Randy
Right.
Borelli, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah,
And they
Randy
reissued it when
Taraborelli.
Michael passed. Yeah.
Yeah, Randy Tarabelli, that guy. So the Hall of Fame thing for the You've Changed, Big Boy, felt just as good as when Mr. Keith was. I remember I ran to Mr. Keith's house, and I was like, Mr. Keith, look at this book. There's this book, and he was just chuckling with a big heavy bear voice, and I kept wondering. I had all my energy, read all this stuff. I like this. In this book, it sounds like everything that I know. How does this guy know what I know? And Mr. Keith, he started laughing. He was like, "That's because the guy interviewed me." And I was like, "Wow!" So it was just that was part of an amazing time, just as well as the You've Changed, knowing that the You've Changed and Big Boy went on to the Hall of Fame or whatever. It was greatness, It's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's the book that's from 1958 to 2009 that he wrote.
Okay, you see, and he did tremendous research on that, and that's how I knew what he had in that book. It was matching everything Mr. Keith told me, and every other book that we found didn't have all of that. And even Michael wrote something in one of his books. It only had a crumb about Mr. Keith in it, and that was it. But not at that velocity or volume, like the Randy Telebelli, whatever, book. That book, not like that.
Yeah, that book.
Yeah, that book. You know what I mean? Yeah, Yeah.
So, I thank you guys for coming on. I look forward to you guys sharing stories that was untold, man, and bringing your guy Mr. Keith to the forefront and showing how great visionary he was and how he was actually the founder of the Jackson 5. I'm excited for that, man. Look forward to the merch. Like I said, I want one of them black and white polos. I got the picture with Michael Jackson on the front. I need one of those in my life. And so, man, like I say, if you guys, anytime you want to come on, when your projects start in September, man, come on back on, and that's promoted. And that's I do whatever I can on my part, man, and keep me and you a holler, man. I don't know why I keep calling you Keith. Keep me and you a holler, man, about the artists and everything, because me and you talked already about that to a certain extent. But I'm glad to meet all you guys, Greg, Mert, Bonita, Miss Dion. You the funny one to me. Now you know what, Miss Dion, you one of them. You take charge. You a take charge type of person.
Oh
I,
no, no, I'm just here to help get
I
things in
told her
order.
that. I
To
told her
I
God
that.
be
like
the glory. To
it.
God be the glory. I give him
Amen.
all the glory.
Because I know
And
that's not the first time you heard that.
Yeah,
No sharing
Mr.
about me.
Lennon,
like I
man,
said,
thank you for coming on, sharing your
it's an
insight, man,
honor.
your
Thank
wisdom.
you.
Mr. Researcher.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all, man. So this
We
has done it
appreciate
for the
you.
CJ Moneyway Show.
Thank you for having me.
Exclusive interview. SteelTown Records coming back to life, baby. In a theater near you. Hey, peace.
Thank you.